neck, invisible fence for your dog. And if I remember right, that was somewhere in the neighborhood of about $700 an animal. But then you could keep that tag or that neck brace and you could move it from animal to animal as well. So just depends if you want to take the initial startup cost and then spread it out over time across your herd, how you want to do it.
Yeah, and this particular dairy farmer said he recouped everything in a year and a half. He didn't give a price on how much it was, but he said it's well worth it in the long run. Mm-hmm. It ups production, and you have a healthier herd. And if any of our local farmers or ranchers have used Fitbit, let us know how you like it. 701-293-9000, 701-293-9000. That would be interesting to see if, is it worth it? Do you like it? Has it increased production for you too? Or is it,
There's one thing to think about. Okay, so I'm going to put this in context of how a dairy farmer can recoup those dollars in a fairly quick manner. And this is just spitballing off the top of my head what I remember as a farm kid raising dairy animals. And that would be if you have a cow who gets mastitis, which is an infection in her udder. Can happen in humans too, but it happens in cows. And when you have mastitis in your cow, you don't want that milk going in with the milk with all the healthy cows. Or if you have to treat her with an antibiotic, no different than when I have to take an antibiotic for an infection, I don't want that milk accidentally going in with the healthy cow's milk. Mm-hmm. So if you're using these Fitbits, it knows where that cow's at. If you're on a robotic system, when her number pops up, her milk gets diverted away from the rest of the herds so it doesn't create a hot tank, so you don't have contaminated milk that goes in. So that right there could save you so much money because you don't have to worry about the fact that, well, what if we got an infected cow's milk into the bulk tank? Right. And this would save you from doing it. It'd be great.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
it's a good idea.
Cool.
I like that. I never really thought about something like that, a Fitbit for cows.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I think it's a great story.
It makes sense,
especially if you can recoup it in a year and a half. I mean, that's well worth it.
Totally. I mean, if you have a startup cost like that and you can bring all your ROI back in that short amount of time, absolutely do it. And and if you're getting your feed efficiency cost rate, if you can manage each cow's diet and you know how much they're getting to increase their milk production, that gains you some dollars right there.
Right. Yeah. And if you're out there, as Dean had mentioned, and you're tossing this idea up, or maybe you are doing the Fitbit for your cow or cattle, give us a call, 701-293-9000. Let us know how it's going, what your thoughts are on it. And again, that phone number is 701-293-9000.
I have to chuckle because who would have thought about this like 20 years ago? I mean, hey, I got a Fitbit. Put it on my cow. What? Where you been at the bar for a while or what? I mean.
Or Dean, if you wanted to use it like that invisible fence for your dog,
right?
Think of it this way. Now that we've talked you into buying another cow,
hey,
you could put this on your cow and keep her in the yard without trampling the neighbor's garden.
This is a very good point. See, now Bridgette's onto something here. I like this. She's always thinking.
She is always thinking. Well, when Weather and Ag in Focus comes back, we have a guest coming up with us on the show for today, and that's Dan Moser, Central Crop Consultant from Larimore, North Dakota. We're going to be talking about mint production, and if you'd like mint production
here in North Dakota,
we're going to put the minty flavor back in the toothpaste on Weather and Ag in Focus. So stay tuned. We'll be right back in just a few moments.
If I said the Stones were coming to Fargo, you'd be like, are you kidding me? Well, the Stones are in Fargo. It's construction season. The team at Glass Doctor of Fargo Moorhead is the expert. They'll work with your insurance company to fix that crack on time, giving you exactly what you want at a price you want. Let the car concert begin. Windshield repair and replacement at Glass Doctor of Fargo Moorhead. Set that appointment today at glassdoctor.com/Fargo. glassdoctor.com/Fargo.
It will fix your pains.
Angie's List is now Angie, and we've heard a lot of theories about why.
I thought it was an eco move. Fewer words, less paper.
No, it was so you could say it faster.
No, it's to be more iconic.
Must be a tech thing.
But those aren't quite right. It's because now you can compare upfront prices, book a service instantly, and even get your project handled from start to finish.
Sounds easy.
It is, and it makes us so much more than just a list. Get started at Angie.com. That's ANGI, or download the app today.
She posted about us just now.
Celebrities can't get enough of Be Honest Bespoke skincare line.
She has 147 million followers. How do we monetize?
She needs a social media associate to help her with the hype.
We should repost this. Do we need a hashtag?
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Meet Boost, the fizzing amazing vitamin boosts that make you feel like
I like to boost it, my vitamins can boost it. I like to boost it, we like to boost it.
Boost effervescent vitamins turn your H2O into H2O to give you a fizztastic feeling like
I like to boost it, my vitamins can boost it. I like to boost it, we like to boost it.
Because it's not just vitamins, it's Boost, the fizzing amazing vitamin boost.
Boost it.
Both Mike Huckabee and Donald Trump agree you need to read Dick Morris's new book. It's called The Return, and it's already topping bestseller lists. Former President Trump says it's a great book and urges you to get it. And Mike Huckabee recently urged every American to read The Return. In The Return, Dick Morris explains why Trump, not DeSantis, must be the candidate in 2024. He even reveals the moves Hillary Clinton is taking to prepare to run against Trump. The Return reveals Trump's secret plan to win. Newsmax says The Return is the political book of the year. The elections are coming soon. Find out why everyone is getting The Return. An Amazon #1 bestseller. Get Dick Morris's The Return in bookstores everywhere, or check out the free offer from Newsmax and save $28. Just call 800-NEWSMAX. That's 800-NEWSMAX. Or go to thereturn911.com to get your copy today. Thereturn911.com.
And welcome back to WDAY Weather and Ag in Focus. I'm Bridgette Readel. I'm the Ag Director, although I almost called myself a meteorologist one day. I'm just not as good as you two. And those two would be Dean Wysocki, Chief Meteorologist, and Justin Storm, Meteorologist Extraordinaire. And today on Weather and Ag in Focus, we want to visit with a guest. His name is Dan Moser. He is from Larimore, North Dakota. Dan is a crop consultant in that neighborhood, and we specifically want to talk about mint production in North Dakota. Good afternoon, Dan. How are you?
Good. How about you, Bridgette?
Dandy. So, as a crop consultant, tell us a little bit about what goes on in your world during the growing season and even now in fall. What are the things that you guys are doing in preparation to wrap up the year, get ready for next year, and look at what you do in crop?
Right now we are soil sampling, soybean ground, dry bean ground, wheat ground, all of it, and even the spearmint. We're making variable rate maps to save the farmer money, to apply fertilizer, so they're only putting down the right needs for each area of the field. So that's kind of what we're up to right now. I guess before we were making chemical recommendations and stuff, trying to save the farmer money and do the right thing for the crop.
So I always think that crop consultants are sort of like you're like the doctor of a field. You literally are going to look at it and diagnose it and figure out what's got to be done with it. Would that be a fair assessment?
Exactly what we're doing out there. All of us crop consultants are kind of trying to figure out the best thing for the field, best thing for the grower. Not necessarily always the cheapest thing for the field, but just the best thing to increase net profit. So that's kind of what we're all out there doing.
And Dan, is the mint that's locally harvested, grown here, does that stay in state, or what happens with it?
Most of our spearmint, and we're 100% spearmint. That's the only one. We're Scots spearmint. That's the only one that can really take our harsh winters. Most of it is going to the big mint users, which is Colgate, Crest, the toothpaste companies, some of the bakers buy the mint. Everything's gone to a broker, and it's distributed that way. So we take our 55-gallon drums, ship them out to Chicago or wherever they need to be shipped, and then they go out to the end user.
Okay.
And I didn't really think
Dan,
that mint was a very popular thing up here. Is it pretty widely grown across our area, or is it kind of just like a little niche farm up here?
It's definitely a niche farm. I think there is only one grower in the Northwood area that raises actually spearmint. I think he's the only one in the state. There might be a couple smaller farms, but we've been averaging anywhere from 200 to 350 acres a year. We're trying to increase the acres, but last winter was kind of tough on our stands. So it takes a couple years to get those stands back into order, or it also takes 2 or 3 years to increase production, since everything is propagated off a mother block in, I think it's Colorado or
So were you
Dan, there's
sorry,
go ahead,
Bridgette.
Justin.
I think you might have cut out there for just a moment. What were you saying, that these come off of blocks out of Colorado?
Yeah, all the mint is propagated. So what that means, these are all sterile plants, so they do not have seed. So what we do is buy plants from a place in Montana. We buy little plants. We go out to a 10-acre plot in the field that we want to produce mint in a couple years, and grow a 10-acre plot, and then we come in with basically it's kind of a modified potato digger, dig out those mint ruts, put them in a seeder that puts them in rows, and then that field in a year will be production mint and production spearmint.
Right. And how much, you said that you were doing upwards of 350 acres up here in North Dakota, was that correct?
Yes.
And
go ahead.
I was going to ask, is that considered small for mint production, or is there a pretty decent yield that comes out of that 350 acres? Like, how far is that like getting you in the mint market? I mean, like even across like the United States, where do we kind of place with that 350 acres of mint?
It's pretty small in the whole production of spearmint. Most of the spearmint is in Idaho, Montana. There is some in Illinois and Indiana. But we're a small player as far as our acreage.
So Dan, when I think about some of the ways that you're using this, you're talking about how to plant it. What goes on during the growing season? Are you most concerned with disease or bugs or weed control in mint in order to get a good yield out of that crop?
Our biggest problems basically has been weed control. We got a new product. Actually, it's an old product. It's called Tough. Finally relabeled onto spearmint, and we got a hold of that last year, and it's really helped us out in weed control. Diseases, rust is our number one problem in season, and same with septoria. So, I mean, we're probably spraying for rust twice and septoria once on separate occasions. And the grasshoppers have been just horrible the last 3-4 years.
And Dan, sorry, go ahead, Dan.
So the whole gamut. We're monitoring for weeds, we're monitoring for disease, and we're monitoring for insects also.
And Dan, for those that don't know, a couple of questions. How do you harvest spearmint, and how do you get it into an oil?
The way we harvest is we go out there with we got a MacDon swather. We put it in rows or put it in swaths, let it lay a couple days, come in and forage harvest it into carts. And all these carts are modified with tubes on the bottom that go that's the way the carts are, I guess. They got tubes on the bottom. And then we take it to a still and we pump steam into the carts, and then we basically still it out. So oil's lighter than water, and so we basically put it into makes steam into the carts. The carts go, or not the carts, but the steam comes out and goes into condensers and stuff, and then it's separated off with water to give you a 99% pure mint oil in the 55-gallon drums.
And what's a time frame on that, from harvest to making this into oil and then being able to ship it out?
As soon as it comes off the condenser, it's basically oil that's ready to ship. Biggest problem is the fluctuation in price. Sometimes we got to sit on the oil 2 to 3 years. Ooh. And wait for the market to go up. But it lasts. I don't know. I think the stuff in the pure form will last 5 to 10 years probably.
Oh wow,
it's a good shelf life.
Wow, real good shelf life, I'd say.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, Dan, we've got one more segment here, so if you can stick with us here for a little bit longer, we've got to take a break here right now. If you have any questions for Dan, give us a call, 701-293-9000. Again, that's 701-293-9000. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
The Jay Thomas Show.
Does chesting mean masking is over now? Because now I'm confused again.
A rib shot of that one. I don't know about if it means masking is over, but I guess your tube top could double as a gator now. So there you go. Leave on a high note. Oh, man. Oh, God. That is awesome.
Weekdays 2 to 5 here on WDAY.
Save now on premium mattresses, pillows, bases, and linens at Accord Comfort Sleep Systems directly across from Olive Garden. Find the best mattress design and construction with our exclusive technologies, such as our Accord Comfort Reflex Layer, ensuring proper spinal alignment. Our Thermodyne Climate Control fabric is perfect for the couple sleeping hot and cold. Buy today and take it home today, or free delivery in the FM metro area. Accord Comfort Sleep Systems. You're going to love sleeping with us.
Join us on Tuesday at 10:06 a.m. when we bring you the Luther Family Ford Nonprofit of the Week on the Coffee Club. This is one of the most special things we do to honor and showcase our local nonprofits because they are the lifeblood of keeping our communities safe, fed, housed, educated, and more. Join us at 10:06 a.m. every Tuesday when we bring you another Luther Family Ford Nonprofit of the Week on WDAY's The Coffee Club.
What do you tell folks when they ask who your insurance agent is and why?
DJ's great. His practice has been not just an insurance agent, but also there's a friendship there. They are very open about their communications with their clients. They want to do everything they can to help their clients. I've got multiple policies with him: auto, home, life insurance, an umbrella policy. Anything and everything you need insurance-wise, you can get from DJ Coulter Insurance.
DJ Coulter, American Family Insurance, 235-6641, djcoulter.com.
Dan owed an unbelievable amount of money to the IRS.
I got behind on my taxes. It's a horrible feeling.
He was in denial.
And when I got those letters from the IRS, you wanted to act like they didn't exist.
Finally, Dan turned to Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima got me a settlement with the IRS. These people are really people-friendly. It was every bit of a new lease on life for me.
The fast action and the great results made Dan's head spin.
I felt like I was in a dream, but it's real, and I have paperwork to prove it. They got the job done, and life is good.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation.
If you're worried about what's going to happen with the IRS, stop worrying. Make the call now.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Welcome to WDAY, Weather and Ag in Focus. We are so happy that you're joining us today. My name is Bridgette Readel. I am Ag Director along with Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki and our meteorologist extraordinaire, Justin Storm. We are online today visiting with Dan Moser. He's joining us by phone. He is a crop consultant from Larimore, North Dakota, and Dan has some extensive experience working with the production of mint. Dan's got some experience with a lot of other specialty crops in North Dakota, like dry edible beans and so forth, but today we wanted to visit a lot about mint and exactly what that's like raising here in North Dakota. So Dan, before we went to listen to some news, you mentioned that the mint that's raised here is distilled down into a concentrated flavor. How concentrated is it? Like, how much mint in a 55-gallon barrel do I need to make my toothpaste?
Oh, probably a couple drops. That might even be a little too much. It is 99% pure mint. I think the spearmint that you buy, like in the grocery store, is like 0.05% mint. If I do my math, so that's. And this is pure spearmint. So
wow. Now I raised some mint in my garden, which my mint is not nearly as concentrated as yours, and also not all just spearmint, slightly different flavored. But as a commercial production, does mint require a lot of fertilizer? And if so, is it more in need of nitrogen or micronutrients, or what are you doing for the fertility on that?
Pretty much for the fertility, we're applying anywhere, depending on the soil test, of course, but we're applying anywhere from, talking units, anywhere from 150 to 200 units of nitrogen, probably 45 to 50 units of P, and probably 10 to 15 units of sulfur. That's probably what we're applying per year, per acre out there.
Okay.
We since it's not relatively new, we've been doing this for about 15 years. It's just that nobody does any research on spearmint as far as soil. So all of our research that I get for my grower comes from Montana or Idaho. And their soils aren't like ours.
Not even close. It's a lot different over here. I know that much. And how big does mint get? Because you said you're going out there with a MacDon swather, cutting it into swaths to pick up. Is it similar in size and look to alfalfa?
We're probably, when it's full bloom out there, when we're cutting it, it's probably about waist high. So it's probably... if we get the right rains and everything, that's kind of the way it grows, I guess. Sometimes it's a little taller, and sometimes if we run into a drought, it's a little shorter. But it's normally about waist high.
So it's my size. It's probably about up to my shoulder, is what you're saying.
I had no idea that it grew that big.
Yeah. So it all depends on your stand. So a very, very good mint stand, 2 to 3 years old, and it's probably going to be 2.5, 3 feet tall at maturity for harvest.
How much mint do you get off of one plant when it's 3 feet tall? I mean, is this like a decent amount of mint, or does it take a lot of plants to kind of build that amount up?
Everything's sold by pound, so really, I mean, we're not. It's kind of very, very difficult to explain. In the field, it's not so much oil per mint plant. It's probably, we're running anywhere from 60 pounds to as high as 80 pounds of mint oil per acre. That's kind of what we're getting.
Okay, so when you're raising this mint, Dan, how old can those plants be before you wind up having to dig those up that they've reached maturity? Because you only have alfalfa in a field for so many years before you change that over. What's the situation with mint? How often do you break up that ground?
We're probably getting about 5 years out of a stand of mint before it starts winter killing too much and we're losing too much stand. We've had stands, in nice tree rows and everything else where we get good snow and good, or basically warmer areas for the winter. We've gone as high as 10, but at the end, those stands are really thin.
So over those years, how does the production of the mint vary, say, from your yield on year 1 to a yield on a 6-year plant?
Our best year, our worst years are basically the first year to get it established. We're probably only getting 10 to 15 pounds of mint per acre, mint oil. Our second, third, and fourth years are our best years, where we're, probably up there 50, 60, 70, 80 pounds of mint oil per acre. Then we generally go down as far as poundage in 5th, 6th, 7th, and however long we want to keep the stands.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, we're ripping up the stands because, 1, we're losing mint, and 2, basically there's just some weeds that we just can't get out of mint, the flicks weeds and all of them. Some of these winter annual weeds that are very, very tough to control, like white cockle and stuff, they just overtake the stand. And we're having to rip up some of these fields just because of that.
And Dan, I don't know if you touched on this earlier. I know you mentioned a handful of states that grow mint, but do you know offhand how many states actually currently are growing mint?
I don't know off the top of my I don't know how many states are actually still doing it.
Okay.
I know Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana used to be the big ones. That's where a lot of it was raised.
And I guess the reason I was asking is because you said that the shelf life on this is 5 years, so obviously you're going to hold on to it until you can get a good ROI on that. And you said it doesn't grow well in drought conditions. Obviously, you're not going to get as much out of it. So that's kind of what I was getting at, is like if the Pacific Northwest are the main areas that have or that are growing mint, and they're in a drought, and yet we have a spectacular growing season with plenty of rainfall, that would obviously be better for our farmers up here.
Yep. Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, that's when the price goes up, is when they're in a drought or, extreme. The biggest problem out there in Montana, I mean, for the market, 100% of the mint out there is all irrigated. So their drought situation doesn't really affect them that much.
Okay.
I think if a storm went through or something like that would be better for the market. But the market is relatively pretty stable, talking to my grower. We just kind of, back when corn and soybeans and wheat prices were really, really low, we were looking for something to expand on, and we kind of picked spearmint. But he's one grower in my area that kind of stuck with it and started expanding his acres. And I think at the start, I had 5 growers in the Northwood Larimore area here that were raising a little bit of mint, and then right now I'm down to 1.
And how does the mint up here handle like our weather, specifically coming to like storms and whatnot? Are these plants really fragile, or can they withstand a 60-mile-an-hour gust, downpours, hail? What's it kind of look like with the mint?
Mint's actually a water-loving plant, so it really does love water. It can't be submerged, but it gets through the downpours pretty well. Our biggest problem with mint is in the wintertime. We got mint is kind of like an underground stolon. That's how it propagates itself in the field. And they're only probably half-inch underneath the surface. So we take them away, so we just, through the winter, it seems like that's how our stands deplete. So it's tough to get that stand to thicken up after the initial seeding.
That's very interesting, and I'm sure I didn't know mint was even grown up here, and
neither did I.
It's now one real quick question, Dan. So, like, a lot of farmers have to rotate their crops, between beans and corn, and is that the same way with if you're growing mint too? Do they have to rotate their crops, or can they stick with that?
What we're doing right now, we got enough land on this farm that is raising mint that over the 15 or 20 years that he's been into it, we haven't had to go back on the same ground twice yet. So we got a pretty good rotation. There's a lot of soil diseases that affect mint, and I guess I haven't seen very much of them take out any stands or anything. But our rotation is very, very good because we're always putting mint on virgin ground.
Well, Dan, I want to thank you for joining us on Weather and Ag in Focus this afternoon. If anyone wants to get more information or get in contact with you, how could they do so?
Give me a call, 218-779-0397.
Any websites as well?
Centrol does have a website. I don't know how much it gets used, but otherwise you can email me at danjmoser@hotmail.com.
All right, well, sounds like a plan. Again, Dan Moser, Central Crop Consultant from Larimore, talking all about mint production up here in North Dakota. We thank you. We hope you have a great rest of your day. And when we come back with Weather and Ag in Focus, we still have a few topics and headlines we need to get to. We need to take a look at the forecast, as well as is there any other impactful weather going on across the country. We'll do that and so much more when we return.
If you're looking for a great night's sleep, I'm going to give you 2 suggestions. First, go to Comfort King Mattress Factory. Second, support the community and go to Comfort King Mattress Factory. They'll make you the mattress that you want for your purposes. All the money that you spend will go back into the community. Isn't that what you want? It's a win-win.
You ever wonder who made your bed? Well, you should. And you should wonder what's inside of it. Come to Comfort King and we'll show you the who, what, where, when, and how.
I'm Emma, and if I had it my way, I would be the only one on the road. I could drive at my own speed and not worry about stopping on the gravel road or seeing around the tall corn at the intersections. But I am not the only one on the roads. And I know that more crashes happen during harvest season involving farm equipment than any other season, so I'm going to slow down, pay attention, wear my seatbelt, and be patient. This message is brought to you by the Barnesville FFA and Minnesota Towards Zero Deaths.
Both Mike Huckabee and Donald Trump agree you need to read Dick Morris's new book. It's called The Return, and it's already topping bestseller lists. Former President Trump says it's a great book and urges you to get it. And Mike Huckabee recently urged every American to read The Return. In The Return, Dick Morris explains why Trump, not DeSantis, must be the candidate in 2024. He even reveals the moves Hillary Clinton is taking to prepare to run against Trump. The Return reveals Trump's secret plan to win. Newsmax says The Return is the political book of the year. The elections are coming soon. Find out why everyone is getting The Return, an Amazon #1 bestseller. Get Dick Morris's The Return in bookstores everywhere, or check out the free offer from Newsmax and save $28. Just call 800-NEWSMAX. That's 800-NEWSMAX. Or go to thereturn911.com to get your copy today. Thereturn911.com.
Grains mixed with livestock showing strength. For the American Ag Network, I'm Richard Risfet with this market update. All day today, corn and wheat hemmed in hot on either side of unchanged. It was a pretty choppy day for both markets. However, soybeans showed double-digit losses for most of the day. Livestock complex showed strength most of the day, with hogs leading the way, feeders not far behind, and live cattle up moderately. OPEC and key oil ministers agreed to a $2 million barrel per day cut, according to Reuters. The move became widely anticipated overnight, pushing crude oil prices above $87 per barrel for the first time in 20 days. Now, many analysts believe that OPEC members want crude oil trading closer to $90 per barrel, including key member Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia does generally end up getting their way and what they want in the way of oil prices. Revenue from crude oil is crucial for sustaining the economy of most OPEC nations. The key questions going forward here, though, is will China stick with its zero COVID policy after its Congress meets October 16th? Number 2, how effective will the European Union's ban on Russian oil be starting later this year? And thirdly, will central banks begin to pivot from their monetary tightening? We will just be having to keep our eye on that in the following weeks here. Let's get a look at our closing commodity numbers. December corn up 1 at $6.84. Beans November down 13 3/4 at $13.69 3/4. Feed meal October down 50 cents a ton at $402.50. Bean oil October up 39 at $69.02. Wheat Chicago December down 1 at $9.02. Kansas City December up 1.5 at $9.90 1/4. And the Minneapolis December wheat, that is up 5 3/4 at $9.82. Live cattle October up 47 at $144.67. Feeders October up 190 at $176.55. And the October lean hogs, they are up 380 at $90.80. While the Dow right now is down about 25 points, the dollar is sitting at 111.1, and crude oil is trading up a little over $1 at just under $88 a barrel. For the American Ag Network, I'm Richard Risfet.
Hey, welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. We've got about 9 minutes left here before we throw it over to the Jay Thomas Show. A couple of stats I want to throw at you guys, and I'm sure this is not done yet, but $60 billion so far is what Hurricane Ian has cost so far. If you're wondering kind of where that stands, it's about, taking a look here on the list, it's about 6th all-time right now, it looks like. Obviously, the costliest hurricane would be Katrina. That was $294 billion. And Harvey was $125 billion. So, and again, we're not done with the final tally on Hurricane Ian. But and I believe I saw it was the second costliest in Florida history, and that'll fall within probably the top 5 or so of all time, and before all is said and done. Obviously, I don't think it's not going to reach Katrina levels because I mean you lost levees there and you lost
right
everything. So, but boy, oh boy, oh boy. I mean, it just continues to grow and grow, and the LRC predicted, and it has been a quiet hurricane season. I mean, really, that's only the second one, I believe, to make landfall. Maybe the third.
I think it's. Oh man. Well, and like the United States, it was the first.
See, I thought we had. Oh, the last one that went through Florida, that was a tropical storm. Yeah, and then there was one that went through earlier in the year. That was a tropical storm. But so it has been a quiet season, and so the LRC was spot on with that. And speaking of the LRC, what is today? The 5th, I believe.
Today is
Today the 5th.
Let's go with the 5th.
The new LRC cycle starts tomorrow, and so we will be keeping a close eye on the weather patterns that kind of evolve over the next 30 to 60 days. And the first half of the month looks pretty dry. That's not out of the ordinary for October, but I remember last year we saw that one big storm roll through, I think it was October 12th or so, where we had a pretty decent severe weather outbreak. And then 60 days later, that rolled through in December, and we had the severe weather outbreak down in southern Minnesota for so late in the season. So we'll see what the if October turns out to be a very dry and kind of calm month, that will portray at least first half of the cycle probably for the upcoming season. So if you want a snowy winter, hope for some stormy conditions in October and into early November. If it's dry, that's not good news, and not just for not liking snow, but that would bleed into also the upcoming spring and summer for our agriculture community.
Right.
Well, if you're saying, though, that we wouldn't have much snow, for the ice fishermen, they'll be thrilled because that means cold temperatures, good ice without snow to insulate it. So I guess it depends which side of the spectrum you're on for all of this, right?
I think the majority of us would like to have a above normal precip. I mean, the farmers, I'm sure, would like that. You definitely want to, especially now. The latest U.S. drought monitor has got, the central and western part of North Dakota here in a moderate to severe drought. So conditions are starting to dry out quickly. We really don't want to carry that into the winter months, that's for sure.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Yeah.
Bridgette, why don't we do a couple what were you going to say?
No, go right ahead. I said that's going to be a great lead-in for us to talk about some other things going on in ag. Justin, what do you want to talk about?
Definitely. Let's talk about the Minnesota-South Dakota aid and rebuilding the grain facilities after those derechos that rolled through this year and last year.
Well, derechos, near and dear to your hearts as meteorologists, right, guys?
Yes, it is.
All right. So back about May 12th, there was a significant derecho, I don't know if I should call it a derecho storm or just a derecho, moved through portions of South Dakota into Minnesota. And U.S. Department of Agriculture has authorized $20 million that can now be utilized by farmers in those states, as well as in Kentucky, due to some major December storms that happened down there. These dollars are going to be directed towards rebuilding grain handling facilities on farm for storage. The situation is that we need to rebuild what happened there. It won't be rebuilt in time for current harvest because that's already going on, and in fact in South Dakota moving very quickly, but could be rebuilt in time for the 23 harvest because there was also damage at commercial locations, local elevators, cooperatives, etc. They aren't going to get all of their structure rebuilt in time either, but building some of this on-farm storage will relieve the pressure of how much needs to go in and store it at a commercial facility. So it helps in two different directions. We are going to see those dollars available very soon. Applications will be coming out to those in the affected areas so they can apply for that assistance. Now, looks like we have a question from Jake. He's on line 1. Jake, go ahead. What's your weather question today?
Hi, so not to get real specific on you or anything, but what can you tell me about the wind forecast for Saturday and Sunday on Devil's Lake?
All right.
Oh, yeah, well, I think that Saturday you're going to have your lighter winds. I'm expecting around 10 to 20 mile an hour winds out of the southwest on Saturday, and then Kind of the same thing for Sunday, although we'll introduce some gusts up to 30 miles an hour. So Sunday definitely going to be choppy. Saturday, maybe a little choppy. It's a pretty decent lake, so I'm sure a 20-mile-an-hour gust will be enough to produce a little bit of choppy action out there. But Saturday, definitely the day with the least wind.
Okay, and what about Friday?
Friday would be even lighter, 5 to 15.
Yeah, light winds on Friday. That high pressure area will be directly overhead. But out towards Devil's Lake, they'll start to see those winds by later in the day pick up maybe to 10 to 15 out of the south-southeast. But yeah, for the most part, yeah, Friday the lightest wind day, and then, as Justin said, increasing a little bit over the weekend.
A little more on Saturday and a little more yet on Sunday. Got it.
Yep. That's it.
Early worm gets the fish.
There you go. Good luck.
Yeah, let us know if you catch anything.
Thank you.
All right.
That. Thanks.
Thanks, Jake. And yeah, so you guys were talking. What were you hitting on here?
Oh, we were talking about the grain facilities being rebuilt.
Which
after the
derecho.
The derecho.
Derecho.
Derecho?
Oh man, you're killing me. Killing me. Well, and luckily we only had we had 2 of them this year, and it was a pretty active weather season, and now we're in that quiet period and that kind of that transition period between LRC cycles. And if you're not familiar with the LRC, again, if you're new to joining us, that LRC is a rather new way of forecasting the weather. Where weather cycles, and the cycle starts around October 6th. Each year is different. It could be a 30-day cycle, 40, 50, 60-day cycle. Every year is totally different, and that's like the main piece of the puzzle. And if astronomy is predicted in cycles. They can predict the solar eclipse down to the second, and so why can't weather be predicted in cycles? And this is something rather new, and again, the accuracy of the LRC is incredible. It predicted Hurricane Ian all the way back in March. So, I mean, to be able to predict something on a large scale, and it does very well with large-scale storms. That's and so, the more we learn about this and fine-tune the model, the better it will be on some of the smaller scale storms too. So again, that new LRC cycle starts tomorrow. We'll be watching our upper level weather patterns for the next 30 to 60 days. So that'll do it for us today. We are out of time. Jay Thomas Show is next. Want to thank everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow.
970 WDAY AM and 93.1 FM, Fargo-Moorhead.